Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. And may the peace, mercy, and blessings of Allah be upon you.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I mean, imagine spending your entire life building this, like, massive empire. You pour your blood, sweat, and tears into it.
Oh, absolutely. The ultimate hustle.
Exactly. You gather all these followers, you accumulate wealth, your reputation is just stellar, and then you cross the finish line, and someone hands you this terrifying revelation.
That the currency you've been collecting is basically worthless.
Yes.
Yeah.
Worthless in the realm that actually matters. So, welcome to today's deep dive, where we are looking at a historical and spiritual paradigm that completely dismantles our modern obsession with the hustle.
It's a heavy topic, but it's so needed.
It really is, because we are exploring this radical idea for you, the listener, that you can do everything flawlessly on the outside, like the visible metrics are perfect. But if your hidden internal code is compromised, well, your life's work amounts to absolute zero.
It is a genuinely terrifying thought, but, it's also the ultimate liberation. Well, because the inverse is also true. The most historically invisible, quiet actions can literally alter the course of human history if that internal code is pure.
Right, and that's our mission today. We are tracing what we're going to call the ultimate ripple effect.
Yes, the ripple effect of a single private prayer.
Exactly. We are diving deep into the source material of Surah Ale-Imran, specifically verses 35 through 45.
A beautiful section of the Quran.
It really is. We are going to trace how Miriam's mother, often known as Hannah, or the wife of Imran, made this quiet, incredibly sincere intention for her unborn child.
An intention that basically defied all the structural limits of her era.
Defied the limits,
Yep.
inspired another prophet, and eventually culminated in the miraculous birth of Prophet Jesus, or Isa, peace be upon him.
It's amazing how much ground those 10 or 11 verses cover.
Yeah, and what strikes me immediately is just how desperately relevant this is for us right now. I mean, you and I and everyone listening, we are all suffering from this collective psychological exhaustion.
The burnout is real.
It's so real. It's that anxiety you feel when you put effort into something. Your career, raising kids, or just posting something online, and it doesn't get the validation you expected.
Right, that physical pit in your stomach.
Yes. And these verses, from 35 onwards, they present a functional cure for that exact exhaustion. It's a masterclass in two things: Nia, which is intention, and ikhlas, which is sincerity.
Because that exhaustion, it's really just a symptom of fractured intentions. So let's look at the origin point of this cure, the absolute epicenter of the ripple effect.
Verse 35.
Exactly, verse 35. This is the historical moment. The wife of Imran pledges her unborn child entirely to the service of Allah.
And the verse basically says, "My Lord, indeed, I have pledged to you what is in my womb, consecrated, so accept this for me. Indeed, you are the hearing, the knowing."
Right. And context is everything here. In her specific cultural landscape, dedicating a child to the elite scholarship of the temple in Jerusalem was like the highest possible honor.
But she does this before the child is even born.
Right. Yeah, completely unilaterally. She is binding the entire trajectory of her own offspring purely to divine service.
Which is wild. And to understand the weight of that, I kind of want to move away from the cliche metaphors we usually hear. Like, intention is the root of the tree.
Right, we hear that all the time.
Yeah. So given the digital world we live in, it makes more sense to think about intention, or niya, like the hidden back-end code of an app.
Oh, I like that.
Right, because we are completely obsessed with the user interface. The UI is the action. How beautiful the app looks, how smooth the buttons are, how eloquent we sound.
But if the back-end clone is routing all your data to a malicious server.
Exactly. Or, in spiritual terms, if the back-end code is silently routing your deeds to feed your own ego, the whole app is corrupt, no matter how pretty it looks to the user.
That is a highly functional way to understand classical Islamic epistemology regarding intention. Because, classical scholars really conceptualized this back-end code.
What did they say about it?
Well, the Arabic root of niyyah doesn't just mean a passing thought like, oh, I hope this goes well. It signifies a conscious, deliberate resolve engineered right in the heart.
A deliberate resolve.
Yes. The entire framework rests on the prophetic maxim. Actions are judged by intentions. Hafiz ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, he was a brilliant classical commentator. He actually called this the jurisprudence of the heart.
The jurisprudence of the heart. Wow.
Yeah, and he argued it constitutes a third of all Islamic knowledge.
Wait, so if I'm understanding Ibn Rajab correctly, the physical reality of what we do literally doesn't matter as much as the cognitive resolve in our heads.
That's the core of it, yes.
I mean, that almost sounds like quantum physics. The state of the observer fundamentally alters the reality of the particle. The action is just a probability wave until the intention collapses it into a reality.
That is a brilliant synthesis. Ibn Rajab notes that Nia is the absolute origin of human agency. So whether a deed is rewarded, punished, or just spiritually neutral, it's completely contingent on that underlying cognitive resolve.
Give me an example. Like, how does that play out in daily life?
Okay, think about taking a shower. If you bathe on a sweltering summer day just to cool off, that's a mundane habit. It's an atta.
Right. Just a normal shower.
But if you perform those exact same physical motions with the exact same water, but your resolve is for ritual purification ghusl, it instantly transforms into an act of worship, an ibadah.
Wow. So the outside observer sees the exact same physical reality.
Exactly. The water molecules behave exactly the same way, but the hidden intention transmuted the mundane into the sacred.
Which totally reframes what Hannah is doing back in verse 35.
Yeah.
She isn't just idly hoping she raises a good kid.
No, she is actively writing the back-end code for her child's existence before the kid even enters the world.
She transforms her pregnancy into an act of supreme worship. But here's the crucial part, and this is what really gets me. Look at how she signs off that prayer. Indeed, you are the hearing, the knowing.
Yes, the closed-loop system.
Exactly. She is running this code on a closed-loop system. There's no audience. Nobody is there to clap for her. She relies entirely on the fact that the divine reads the hidden architecture of the heart.
And that closed-loop system is exactly what protects the heart from spiritual bankruptcy. I mean, look at the Hijra, the migration from Mecca to Medina.
Right, when the early Muslims left everything behind.
Yeah, they abandoned their wealth, their homes, faced literal death in the desert. But there was this one man who made that exact same physically agonizing journey solely to marry a woman named Qais.
I've heard this story.
The prophet explicitly stated that his migration was only for what he intended. His physical suffering was identical to everyone else's.
But his spiritual reward was zero.
Zero. He got the woman, sure, but his back-end code routed all that capital to a purely worldly server.
So intention is incredibly potent when it's pure in a vacuum.
Yeah.
But reality is almost never a vacuum.
Rarely, yeah.
So what happens when a pure hidden intention violently collides with a society that structurally forbids it?
And that brings us right to verse 36.
Yes, because that is exactly what Miriam's mother faced the moment she gave birth. The reality hits like a ton of bricks. Hannah delivered the child, and it's a girl.
The verse says, but when she delivered her, she said, "My Lord, I have delivered a female."
And in the sociological framework of her time, the elite scholarship of the temple was strictly men only.
Females were completely barred from that specific tier of consecration.
So society basically told her, hey, your profound vow, it's null and void based on biology.
Yeah, the societal architecture just rejected her intention completely.
I have to introduce some genuine friction here, though. Because if you're listening to this today, her reaction sounds incredibly passive.
How so?
Well, the verse continues with her saying, and Allah was most knowing of what she delivered, and the male is not like the female. If a structural rule says women can't serve, and Hannah just accepts the female child and relies on divine wisdom, isn't that just spiritualizing defeat?
I can see why it looks that way.
Right. Like, how is this not just throwing your hands up and surrendering to the patriarchy of her era?
That is exactly the tension the text wants you to feel. But analyzing her response actually reveals it's the absolute opposite of defeat. It's the pinnacle of ikhlas.
Sincerity.
Yes. Let's look at that phrasing. And the male is not like the female. A lot of surface-level historical readings thought this was a biological demotion.
Like, oh, a female isn't as good as a male.
Right, but the classical exegesis is very clear. This statement signifies distinction, not demotion. Allah had a unique, historically unprecedented purpose for Maryam that was going to completely shatter those standard gender roles.
Oh, wow.
Hannah didn't surrender to society. She surrendered to the ultimate architect of reality. By trusting that Allah accepted her vow anyway, she delegitimized society's right to assign spiritual worth to her daughter.
Okay, that is a massive distinction. Giving up means believing society has the final say. Sincerity means believing society's rules are completely irrelevant when the divine has already accepted the transaction.
Precisely. And this requires us to really understand the mechanics of ikhlas. Linguistically, the Arabic root KS, it denotes the process of extracting pure gold from raw ore.
You don't get pure gold just by polishing it.
Exactly. You get it by throwing the ore into a crucible with intense, violent heat. The fire burns away all the impurities, the dross, leaving only the indestructible element.
So Hannah's intention was thrown into the crucible of societal rejection.
Yes. If her intention was tainted by ego-like, if she secretly just wanted the social prestige of being the mother of a famous temple priest, she would have been absolutely crushed by disappointment.
But because her intention was pure gold, purely for Allah, the biological outcome didn't break her.
It just burned away whatever dross was left.
The psychological resilience of that is staggering,
Hmm.
especially when you contrast it with our reality today. We were talking earlier about the exhaustion of seeking validation.
Oh yeah, the digital world.
The scholars in our source material, like Dr. Omar Suleiman, they talk about this concept of the algorithm of digital RIA.
Rhea being ostentation or showing off.
Right. Our entire digital ecosystem, financially and socially, incentivizes performative morality. Like, we're conditioned to only do good deeds if they can be photographed, packaged, and monetized for attention.
It's all about the metrics.
We literally measure the worth of our actions by an analytics dashboard.
And this is exactly what classical scholars, people like Ibn Taymiyyah and al-Dahabi warned about centuries ago.
That's a good call.
They categorized Rhea doing deeds for human approval as shirk al-kafi, which translates to hidden polytheism.
Hidden polytheism. That is an incredibly heavy accusation.
It is heavy, but the mechanics of it are deeply insidious. Think about what worship actually is, fundamentally.
Submitting to a higher power, seeking its validation.
And fearing its rejection, yes. So when you tailor your moral output to satisfy the shifting puritanism of online mobs, or you appease an algorithm to get visibility,
You're elevating the audience to the status of a deity.
functionally, yes. You are relying on the masses to provide the sustenance, the dopamine, and the validation that you should be seeking exclusively from the creator.
Which completely explains the modern phenomenon of activist burnout or compaction fatigue.
Yeah.
If you look at the neuroscience, when you expect a like or a thank you for a good deed, you create this covert social contract in your brain.
And when it's broken,
When the crowd ignores you or criticizes you, your brain just floods with cortisol. You feel stressed, resentful. But sincerity, true ikhlas, it bypasses that social contract entirely.
it creates that closed loop system again.
Exactly. You act for the divine, the transaction is immediately complete, and your dopamine isn't held hostage by human beings on the internet.
And because Hannah operated in that closed loop system, she was ready for the next phase of the ripple effect. Which brings us to verse 37.
Okay, let's look at verse 37.
This is where the environment is constructed to incubate this pure intention. The verse says, "So her Lord accepted her with good acceptance and caused her to grow in a good manner and put her in the care of Zachariah."
I love the phrasing there. Allah doesn't just tolerate the vow. He accepts it with good acceptance.
And then she's placed in the mirab, the sanctuary, under the guardianship of a prophet.
This just proves that having a pure internal code isn't enough. You need the right hardware to run it on. You need a greenhouse. Miriam was placed in the ultimate spiritual incubator.
But then the verse takes this sudden turn into the miraculous. Zachariah, who is her mentor and guardian, enters the sanctuary to check on her, and he finds her with provisions.
Right, the classical traditions mention he would find summer fruits with her in the dead of winter.
And winter fruits in the scorching summer.
So naturally he asks, "O Miriam, from where is this coming to you?"
And her response is the absolute bedrock of spiritual reliance. She says, "It is from Allah. Indeed, Allah provides for whom He wills without account."
Wow.
This exchange really illuminates the profound power of hidden piety. Let's connect this to the source text analysis of Surah Al-Nisa, verse 114.
What'd that one say?
It discusses the sanctuary of secret counsel. It explicitly states that there is no good in most of the private conversations of human beings, with very specific exceptions: those who enjoin charity, goodness, or peacemaking.
Wait, why the emphasis on secrecy? If enjoining charity is good, shouldn't we do it loudly to inspire other people?
There's definitely a time for public inspiration, but true ikhlas fundamentally requires a baseline of operating completely outside the public gaze.
Because the ego feeds on observation.
Yes, the ego is a parasite. It derives zero tangible status from a purely sincere, completely hidden act. Ibn al-Qayyim discusses this deeply when explaining the concept of muraqabah.
Muraqabah. Let's define that functionally for the listener, because vigilant self-awareness sounds a bit academic.
Fair enough. Functionally, Muraqabah is the psychological internalization of the divine observer effect.
Like a security camera.
Exactly. If a person knows a security camera is watching them, their behavior changes instantly. The mere presence of an observer alters the action. Muraqabah is training your heart to be acutely, permanently aware that the Creator is always observing.
And when you achieve that state, the need for human security cameras, human validation, just evaporates.
It's gone. Miriam was locked in the sanctuary. She wasn't seeking an audience. She starved her ego of human attention, and in return, the universe physically bent to nourish her.
The summer fruit in winter is a physical manifestation of a spiritual reality.
When you detach from material causes and rely on the ultimate provider, provision arrives through avenues you literally cannot calculate.
The provision without account.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings us to perhaps the most fascinating psychological mechanism in this entire narrative, this hidden piety. It doesn't stay isolated. It's highly contagious.
Yes, the ripple effect hits the mentor.
We see this in verses 38 through 41. I mean, Zacharias is the prophet. He's the elder, the teacher, the one theoretically in charge of her spiritual development.
Right.
But witnessing this young girl's absolute certainty in this miraculous provision, something inside him just shifts. Verse 38 says, "At that, Zechariah called upon his Lord, saying, 'My Lord, grant me from yourself a good offspring. Indeed, you are the hearer of supplication.'"
It's a stunning reversal of dynamics. The student becomes the catalyst for the teacher.
And Zechariah was of extreme old age, right?
Extreme old age. His bones were frail, and his wife had been barren her entire life. According to human biology, the spreadsheet of material reality said 0 chance.
He had probably made this prayer decades ago and just accepted his fate.
Oh, absolutely. But seeing Miriam's out-of-season fruit triggered a completely new frequency of certainty in him.
It's as if sincerity emits a tangible frequency. When Zacharias saw that Allah provides summer fruit in winter, breaking the laws of botany, it rewired his understanding of his own biological limitations.
If God can bypass the seasons, he can certainly bypass menopause and old age.
Exactly. That cognitive leap is amazing.
Sincerity bridges the gap between human limitation and divine omnipotence. And this brings us to the psychology of pure altruism. The classical scholar Fakhr al-Din al-Razi synthesizes this beautifully when discussing Surah Al-Insan verses 8 and 9.
What do those verses describe?
They describe the mindset of true believers who give food to the needy. Their internal dialogue is, "We feed you only for the countenance of Allah. We wish not from you reward or gratitude."
Not even a thank you.
That's
We
right.
touched on this, but we really need to dive deeper. Because in our modern framework, even our philanthropy is completely transactional.
We want the plaque on the hospital wing.
Or the tax deduction, or at the absolute minimum, deep, visible gratitude from the person we helped.
And that expectation of gratitude is the Achilles heel of modern morality.
Right.
When you expect gratitude, you place the power of your emotional stability into the hands of a flawed human being.
So if the person is rude, your ego feels cheated.
You become bitter. You get compassion fatigue. But Razi points out that true ikhlas liberates the giver entirely. If your intention is purely for the countenance of Allah, the recipient is merely the mailbox through which you send your transaction to God.
A mailbox, I love that.
Whether the mailbox thanks you or insults you changes absolutely nothing about the fact that the letter was delivered.
That completely neutralizes the emotional volatility of dealing with people. Hannah asked for no recognition. Miriam worshipped in absolute isolation. They wanted nothing from society.
And yet, their pure altruism catalyzed a historical shift.
It inspired Zechariah's prayer, which resulted in the glad tidings of another prophet, Yahya or John the Baptist. It's a paradox. Sincerity is the most potent, history-altering force, precisely because it asks for zero earthly credit.
When you remove the friction of the ego, divine momentum just takes over. And in the story of Miriam, this momentum now pushes the narrative out of the realm of private devotion and violently into the realm of supernatural intervention.
Which brings us to verses 42 through 44. This is where the disruption of the material world becomes undeniable.
The angels descend.
Yes. They explicitly proclaim Miriam's status and mention when the angel said, "O Miriam, indeed Allah has chosen you and purified you and chosen you above the women of the world. O Miriam, be devoutly obedient to your Lord and prostrate and bow with those who bow."
We are witnessing a total disruption of the materialistic mindset.
It's a sledgehammer to how we view reality.
And this disruption is arguably the most vital lesson for the modern believer. These miraculous signs angels speaking, choosing a single woman above all humanity, the provisions, they shatter our modern conditioning. because modernity trains us from childhood to compartmentalize reality.
Oh, the secular versus the religious divide. We act as if God only has jurisdiction inside the four walls of a mosque, a church, or a synagogue.
But the moment we walk out the door,
We operate as if the laws of physics, economics, and corporate hierarchies run on an independent operating system.
exactly. Contemporary scholars like Sayyid Qutb and Syed Abul Ala Maududi diagnosed this compartmentalization as the great modern intellectual disease.
They pointed out that we've relegated faith to just a weekend cultural identity.
Right. But the story of Maryam demands what Maududi called total ontological submission.
Ontological meaning the very nature of being.
Yes. Think of Surah Al-Imran, verse 162. Say, "Indeed, my prayer, my rites of sacrifice, my living and my dying are for Allah, Lord of the worlds. Your biology, your finances, your social standing, none of it is independent of the ultimate controller."
So the angel speaking to Miriam isn't just some cool historical miracle, it's a proof of concept.
It proves that the ultimate controller is not bound by the natural laws he created.
Biology, physics, patriarchal hierarchies, these are just rules he put in place for order, but he could override the code whenever he chooses.
Sincerity demands that we place our ultimate trust in the coder, not the code. If you have true ikhlas, you don't panic when the material spreadsheet says your situation is hopeless.
You don't abandon your principles because the social climate says you're going to be canceled.
You know that the material world is subordinate to the divine will.
I really want that to sink in for you listening. How often do we compromise our ethics at work because that's just how business is done? We literally worship the spreadsheet.
We let immediate material circumstances dictate our morality.
Miriam's story is a massive wake-up call to stop being enslaved by the laws of society and align with the creator of those laws.
And that alignment is about to face the most terrifying stress test imaginable. The ripple effect reaches its absolute climax in verse 45.
The glad tidings of Isa, Jesus. The verse reads, "And mention when the angel said, 'O Miriam, indeed Allah gives you good tidings of a word from him, whose name will be the Messiah, Jesus, the son of Mary, distinguished in this world and the hereafter and among those brought near.'"
It's an unfathomable honor.
It is, but I want to inject some harsh realism here. This is an unimaginably heavy, terrifying burden. She is an unmarried, deeply pious woman in a highly conservative society, and she's being told she will have a miraculous pregnancy.
The math on how society will react is brutal.
Brutal. She's going to face immense scrutiny, slander, and the very real threat of being entirely ostracized, or worse. How does a person's ikhlas, their sincerity, survive a trial that threatens to destroy their entire life?
That is the core existential question of this entire narrative, because there's this dangerous misconception out there that true ikhlas results in a peaceful, frictionless life.
Right, like if you're good, everything will be easy.
The reality is the exact opposite. True ikhlas means accepting and executing Allah's will, even when it involves agonizing, terrifying hardship.
So how did her heart survive it?
To understand that, we have to look at the psychological architecture of a true believer. The classical scholar Ibn al-Qayyim conceptualized this through a brilliant metaphor. He called it the bird of servitude.
The bird of servitude. Walk us through the anatomy of this bird. How does it fly through that kind of social terror?
Okay, so Ibn al-Qayyim pictured the spiritual journey of the human soul as a flying bird. The head of the bird is mahabba, which is intense, overriding love for the divine.
So love is the primary driving engine.
Without the head, the bird is dead. You cannot begin the journey without a foundational love for the Creator. But a bird can't fly with just a head.
It needs aerodynamic stability.
It needs two wings. The first wing is Qaf, which translates to profound reverence or fear of God's displeasure.
And the second wing?
The second wing is Raja, which is deep, unwavering hope in God's mercy and ultimate justice.
So if the wings are out of balance, the bird spirals. Like if you only have fear, you plummet into despair and paralysis. You just think God is out to punish you.
Exactly. And if you only have hope, with no reverence or action, you drift into spiritual delusion. You think you can do whatever you want without consequence.
Sincerity operates strictly within this dynamic equilibrium. Miriam needed perfect aerodynamic stability to survive the sheer terror of returning to her people carrying a child.
Her head, her love for Allah kept her moving forward. Her wing of fear reverence for his decree prevented her from disobeying the command.
And her wing of hope kept her from collapsing under the weight of society's slander, because she knew the ultimate judge would vindicate her eventually.
But practically speaking...
Yeah, on a Tuesday afternoon when the townspeople are whispering behind her back and pointing fingers, What specifically insulates her from having a psychological breakdown?
It comes down to what she was tethered to. Her intention was tethered entirely to As-Samad.
Asamad.
This is one of the most profound names of Allah found in Surah Al-Ikhlas, chapter 112. As-Samad translates to the self-sufficient master.
Meaning the eternal refuge whom all creatures desperately need, but who needs absolutely nothing in return.
Exactly. Because Maryam's internal code was tethered exclusively to the independent creator, she was completely insulated from the volatility of human reactions.
And this brings us all the way back to the very beginning, the origin of the ripple.
Anna.
Yes, Miriam's mother. When she made that original vow in verse 35, she followed it up with a specific prayer for protection. She said, "And I seek refuge for her in you, and for her descendants from Satan, the expelled."
That maternal prayer, born of pure sincerity, manifested decades later as Maryam's unshakable psychological resilience.
It's the ultimate defense mechanism. Satan's primary weapon isn't always prompting people to commit grotesque evils. Often, his most effective weapon is making us terrified of poverty, specifically, the poverty of social rejection.
He paralyzes us with the fear of what people will think.
But Miriam was immunized against that fear by her mother's prayer and her own internal development.
When you truly internalize As-Samad, you realize that the people slandering you do not hold the keys to your sustenance.
They don't control your ultimate honor, and they cannot dictate your success in the hereafter.
If your intention is pure, if your closed-loop system is intact, the noise of the crowd is literally just that noise.
It proves that Ikhlas is not just a theological checklist for the afterlife. It is the ultimate functional mechanism for emotional stability and mental resilience in this life.
Let's zoom out and look at the sheer scale of the historical architecture built by these 11 verses.
The grand summary. It all began in a completely invisible private moment. A mother, living in a rigid society, makes a quiet intention to dedicate her unborn child to God.
When society throws up a biological roadblock, she doesn't spiritually capitulate. She doubles down on her trust in divine wisdom.
And that pure intention constructs a spiritual sanctuary around her daughter, Miriam. Miriam internalizes this sincerity, starves her ego of human validation, and draws miraculous provision directly from the heavens.
And that hidden devotion was so potent it became contagious. It shattered the material limitations in the mind of Prophet Zechariah, inspiring a prayer that resulted in the miraculous birth of Prophet Yahya.
And the ripple reaches its apex when Miriam, fortified by the perfect balance of love, reverence, and hope, is chosen above all women to miraculously bear Prophet Isa.
An entire lineage of divine intervention, multiple prophets, and world-altering miracles.
All sprouting from the uncorrupted back-end code of one woman's private prayer. It dismantles everything we are taught about power and influence.
You don't need a massive platform.
You don't need 1 million followers, and you don't need the approval of the societal elite to change the course of history. You just need a quiet heart, a pure intention, and the courage to trust the ultimate coder of reality.
It leaves us with a profound mirror to hold up to our own lives. We have discussed the algorithms of digital ostentation and the exhaustion of seeking human applause. The ultimate takeaway is a shift in our operational baseline.
Which brings us to you listening to us right now. We want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over, applying this directly to your reality today.
Ask yourself this: what is one area of your life, one project, or one relationship where you can consciously shift your internal code from seeking worldly recognition to pure, sincere purpose today?
What is one good deed you can intentionally hide a secret between you and your Creator to start building your own sanctuary against the noise of the world?
It's the daily process of putting the ore into the crucible. It hurts the ego, but it leaves you with pure gold.
It truly does. Jazakallah khair. May Allah reward you with goodness for spending your valuable time listening to us. Connect with us. Join our growing family on this sacred journey of Islamic knowledge. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated. Your support helps us spread this message of peace and beauty further. May Allah grant us all the steadfastness to follow the path of truth, increase our knowledge, and accept our humble deeds. Ameen. May the message of peace, tolerance, and harmony of Islam reach every heart.